The Batteries Included podcast is brought to you with United Chargers and their Grizzly range. The next generation of Grizzly is here. Meet the Grizzly Ultimate, the most powerful AC Level 2 charger for home use. With a maximum current of 80 amps, that's 19.2 kilowatts. Your vehicle could be charged up to twice as fast as a standard level 2 and up to 15 times faster than a level 1. And of course, it's Wi-Fi connected, so you can take control of your home charging, view stats, set a charging schedule, take part in demand response programs, and control your charger remotely. And that joins the lineup alongside the original Grizzly Classic. The Grizzly Duo, designed to charge two vehicles at the same time. The Grizzly Mini, a portable charging station. And the Grizzly Smart, a revolutionary smart EV charger. Those chargers can adjust the current from 16 amps up to 40 amps, that's 9.6 kilowatts. Plus, the Grizzly Ranger IP67 rated, built in Canada, and with the highest quality materials. You can order yours right now. Go to unitedchargers.com, that's unitedchargers.com. Hello and welcome to the Batteries Included podcast. It's Friday, April 11th, 2025, episode 83. Today, we're talking about the incredible charging ability of the Lucid Gravity, a company in stealth mode called Slate. Just came above water, and we get to have a look at that, and the arrival of a cheaper Cybertruck as well. Of course, much more busy week this week. Thank you to you for joining us, especially live in the comments. We look forward to seeing what's on your mind this week. I'm your host, Martin Lee, from the EV News Daily podcast. Joining us today is the thaumaturgic Mr. Tom Malogany, senior editor at Inside EVs and host of the YouTube channel State of Charge. And we also have Dominic Yoni, long-time EV journalist and host of the YouTube channel Drive Electric with Dominic. Last week, we had Lacey Miss Go Electric, which was obviously a delight, but obviously we missed you as well, Tom. It was, you two are incomparable, but you were off on a secret mission, which now everyone knows about because you posted the video. So the Lucid Gravity is a very special vehicle, one-on-one time charging it. How was that visit, Tom?
Yeah, so what was really great. So this week, it's actually going on right now, is the Lucid Gravity's press week, where they invite journalists to come out and drive the car so they can do reviews before it gets released. It's formally going to begin customer production at the end of this month, or customer deliveries at the end of this month. So I got the invitation and I reached out to Lucid. It's really more important for me to charge it than even drive it, to be honest with you. I'll have plenty of time to drive it at some point. I don't need to be the first one to drive it. The first drive reviews aren't really my thing. So I said, can I come out earlier and do the charge recording? And they're like, I don't know if the vehicles will be ready. I don't know. We'll get back to you. So they got back to me and said, you know what? Yes, we're going to make exception for you. And we're going to invite Kyle too, because, you guys do so much charging information and detailed, explaining. So this is what we'll do. We'll invite you and Kyle out the week before. You guys can charge the hell out of the cars. We'll have a couple of cars ready for you. Do whatever you want. And then we'll do the press drive the following week. If you guys want to come, you can come back to the press week. Kyle is going. I said, I'll pass. I'll drive the Gravity in a month or so when you got a bunch of them. Maybe I'll come out and do a range test or something like that. So Kyle might be out there right now. I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure he went out this week. So Kyle came with Jordan, and we were able to charge. We each got to do 2 charge recordings. On Tesla superchargers and on another charger kind of our choice. So that's important because, number one, the Gravity comes standard with a NACS inlet. One of the first non-Tesla vehicles in North America to have a NACS inlet as standard. And so Lucid wants to show how well the vehicle can charge on a Tesla supercharger, because the Air and other 800 or 900 volt electric vehicles don't charge well on Tesla superchargers because of the voltage difference. But the Gravity, being designed to have a native NACS inlet, they had to do something to make it charge faster. And they redesigned it. It's different setup than the Air. And the Gravity's rear motor acts as like a DC to DC boost converter. And it boosts the voltage up to the Gravity's 926 or something like that, or 930, somewhere around that voltage, so we can charge faster. It still doesn't charge as fast on Tesla superchargers or 400 volt charging systems as it will on a 1000 volt charging system. But it will pull and hold 220 kilowatt for quite some time, till about 40% state of charge, I think it is, which is much better than the 50 kilowatt that the Air will pull. And that's it. If you're in Lucid Air, well, first of all, it doesn't have access to the superchargers yet, but you can charge on Magic Docks. That's kind of a last resort because you're limited to 50 kilowatt. But, hey, any port in a storm, if there's no chargers around, plug the damn thing in, go get some coffee and chill. But it's not ideal. So they wanted to show us that the Gravity can charge so much better on Tesla superchargers. So it was kind of like, okay, you guys have to do one Tesla supercharger recording each, which we did, and then pick the charger. Now, there's no 400 kilowatt chargers in the area. The Gravity can charge it up to 400 kilowatts. But there is one in Campbell, California at ChargePoint's Labs. It's not a public charger. It's ChargePoint's private charger. It's one of their 400 kilowatt chargers. So they arranged to allow access to that. So Kyle went and did the recording on that one. And there was no use in me going and doing it on the same charger. We have Kyle's data. So at dinner the night before, I said, you did that one. I'll go do the 350 and we'll share data. So then we have recordings on the superchargers, a 350 kilowatt charger and a 400 kilowatt charger. So we're covered pretty much on Gravity charging, and we share data with each other. So, the bottom line is it's just a monster. It's, the fastest charging electric vehicle you can buy here in the US and Europe. China's, it's another story over there, but we haven't been able to independently test what they do over there. Soon we should be able to, but for now, this thing's just a monster. I drove the Taycan and charged the new Taycan last 2 weeks ago. I put up my range test video, but I didn't put up my charging video yet. I'm going to do that really soon, probably this weekend. I'm going to have that up. And I was full on. Oops, sorry. So this is Motion Auto Body.
Maybe you should take
Equinox.
that.
I will take it. I will take it. Hello.
Yeah. So for those who
hey Dave, how's it going?
Tom's
okay.
Equinox
I'm actually live on a podcast right now. They can't hear your voice, but people are waiting to hear you tell me that the Equinox is ready. Is that what you're about to tell me?
Cool.
Is it ready? Is it ready? Come on. You can do it. Yes. Come on. You can do it. Oh, no, that's not a good look on his face. That is not a good look on Tom's face.
Okay.
That's the part that's missing.
So so now we're looking into next week for sure.
Oh, okay. Well, it's not months, it's weeks. Days.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Okay.
I was literally on the edge of my seat. I was like, what's he going to say? Is he going to say, it's coming in
I got you.
summertime? I wonder what the reason was. Parts? Yeah. I reckon one part held it up. What do you reckon in the comments? What's the reason? What's the reason why the Equinox is still not ready after it was sideswiped?
Okay. Well,
must be parts.
All right. So I'm live on a podcast. I'm going to let you go right now and tell everybody what's going on. I'll call you back a little bit later, and then we'll set up when we're going to pick it up. Thanks. Okay. Bye.
My wife says that to me. She says, I'm going to let you go now, which is my so polite way of saying, get off the phone right now. That's such a polite way of
That's
saying
what I was basically doing.
Yeah, I know.
A great guy. And I love Motion Robotics has done a super job. He keeps calling me to give me updates. So I got a call yesterday and said, look, I think we're going to be done tomorrow. The car's done, but we just need to have a special tool come in to recalibrate the sensors. And so he said, we're probably going to get that done in the morning, and you can pick it up tomorrow afternoon or something like that. So great. So evidently there's the difficulty. It's not recalibrating. It's not working. So he's like, we got to pull your bumper back off and maybe replace the sensors or do something and then recalibrate everything. So I was expecting to get it back today. Tomorrow will be 2 months since the accident. So
wow.
Hopefully it's early next week. So it's going to be a little longer than 2 months.
So when you say sensors, do you mean like the ultrasonics, just the parking sensors, or other things?
I also think the front sensors. He brought in he said with the newer cars, he goes, we don't even do it here. Somebody from GM comes and hooks up their tools, recalibrates all the sensors for the ACC, the ADAS system, and everything has to be recalibrated once it's been disconnected and shut off, even if it wasn't affected in the accident. And for whatever reason, he's like, this isn't working. It's just the vehicle's not accepting the recalibration. So, all right. Well, we'll keep going. Anyway, back to what we were talking about. We're talking Lucid Charging. Amazing charge.
Gravity.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Charge,
Gravity. Yeah.
Gravity on screen right now. Charging power curve from 0 to 100. So did they give it to you empty, or did you have to run this thing down?
So I ran down one. They had two vehicles for us. The other one, they had somebody driving it down to 0. This one I ran down, and I actually ran it down too far at one point, and we had to use a air to boost it up a little bit because I wasn't going to make the charger that we were supposed to go to. So, I was driving around California with Imad Dalala doing an interview, and we just went on too long, and we're like, we need 4% state of charge to get to the charger where we're going to, and we were at like 2. They're like, we won't make it. So they had it all timed out for us. Lucid's great interacting with this. They really they so get how important charging is, and more so than any other company. They work with people like me and Kyle to provide us the cars, to give us access to, VPs of engineering and ask whatever you want. Don't hold back. They really do a good job with that. Anyway, so
I think Imad is senior VP of powertrain, isn't he?
Yes. Yeah, he is.
Wow.
So we're talking top level people here, he spent the whole day with me and Kyle. So,
incredible.
It's really good. And they provided us with all the charts and graphs from our charging sessions. No company has ever done that to me, given me their data to say, here, look, compare this to what you do. All the charging was down to like the second, like what the vehicle was at and what power it was taking in and so forth. So yeah, this is the charging. This is the charging curve on the 350 kilowatt EVgo charger. If you notice, we pull a little more than 350 kilowatt. The Signet chargers are known to do that, to give you a little bit more than the other chargers on the EVgo network. But in any event, that's specifically why we went to a Signet EVgo station, because I knew we would pull more than 350. But look at that.
I think
more than 300 kilowatt, up to 40% state of charge. That's brutal.
Yeah, that's pretty
power.
I believe. Hey Tom, can I just interject real quick?
Sure.
So I believe Kyle on his video. So he has his. If people are interested, they can check out his video on the charge curve on the Lucid Gravity on the out of spec testing channel, and I believe he says in the 400 kilowatt, it wanted even more than that machine could actually give it. So it would take more than 400 as well. A little bit, like 7 or 8. He said 7 or 8 kilowatts extra.
Wow. But then you pay for it later on.
Okay.
If it pulls more in the beginning, because and I haven't done a comparison layout yet, but I catch up to him at some point. There's a point where we're like, I think by the time we're at 50 or 60%, we're like less than a minute apart at state of charge. Right. So, there's not going to be a big advantage to going to a 400 kilowatt charger. We're talking a minute or two at most. And really, if you charge deep, if you charge to 80%, I think I go ahead of them at some point.
Really?
Wow. So, yeah. We're really splitting hairs here, talking about pulling a little more than 300 kilowatt for 2 or 3 minutes compared to what you're getting on a 350 kilowatt station. It almost is negligible,
Yeah.
So I mean, that's a charging curve, but what I get more excited about, honestly, I mean, is we talk about 400 kilowatts, 300 kilowatts. If you follow state of charge, I focus on range replenishing rate is what I focus on. Miles per minute, miles added. That's the most important thing as far as I'm concerned. I don't care that it added 80% in 30 minutes. Well, what does 80% get you? And it's different on every car. And because the Gravity, the EPA range rating at least is 450, it gets you a hell of a lot. I mean, if you're talking about, an EGMP car that, 10 to 80% in 20 minutes, yeah, but the range is 250 miles. I mean, don't get me wrong. They charge awesome, but you have to put it in context with how far you're getting. So what I try to focus on is range added. And I have two charts on that. This one here is miles added. So if you look at it, 100 miles added in 5.4 minutes, 200 miles in 11 minutes, 300 miles, which is farther than most EVs even go. You can add that back in 20 minutes of charging.
Incredible. Yeah.
That's pretty awesome.
And you can get 400 miles in 35 minutes, 400 miles of range. Today, so many EVs go 10 to 80% in the 30 to 35 minute, area. This damn thing will give you 400 miles of driving range in 35 minutes. Bonkers. I mean, I was so impressed with the Taycan charging, which I had, like I said, I'm gonna have that video out this weekend. This crushes it, which is amazing to me. And Martin, if you don't mind, one more graph put up. The miles per minute range replenishing rate.
This one?
Yeah, that one there. So if you look at the first 10 minutes of charging, we got almost 18.5 miles a minute for every minute of charging. And the second 10 minutes, 11.2. So it averages for the first 20 minutes of charging, you average 15 miles of range added for every minute of charging. That's way off the charts. Nothing touches that. Taycan, which is awesome, does it around 12. So, I say if you touch 10 miles a minute, you're rocking. That's great. This freaking thing, for 20 solid minutes, you get 15 miles of range added for every minute you're sitting there charging. That's just, it's amazing. It charges. This is what a fantastic charging electric vehicle that this is.
And long-time viewers will have heard me say this before. And if you're new to EVs or new to the podcast, whilst you may have read things online about, EVs are becoming as quick to charge up as fossil vehicles, unless you are literally pulling off a motorway into a filling station, maybe one of those units that you can swipe your card or put your PIN number in at the pump, and then you're just pumping gas and going. After 400 miles, most people want to at least go into the little mini shop and maybe grab a horrible coffee from the machine or use the bathroom. And, for those of us that are, it's sad enough to have actually timed how long our EV stops are, 15 to 20 minutes goes by so quickly, let alone if you have kids, of which my two little monkeys are going to stop me for like 30 minutes at a minimum. And so whilst you may see those comparisons about, well, EVs are becoming as quick to refill as fossil cars and like that, you don't understand how long you do stop for until you time it. And you go, oh, right, that was like a 15-minute gas stop because I went in, I've got some snacks, I used the bathroom, I paid at the cashier, and I got back in my car. Like that 12 or 15 minutes flies by, but you don't realize it because the actual act of pumping gas, of which you can't do anything else at the time. So that 20 minutes to get, what was it, Tom, 300 miles of range in 20 minutes or so?
300 miles of range, yeah.
Like that's to drive more than that, unless you are absolutely, off your rocker on caffeine, any more than that, then it just becomes dangerous to do that in a stint without at least a quick stop, stretch your legs, look at something else, change the focus of your eyes and go. That, we are now in a place where it's that's done. It's charging done, right? Well, not for everybody, but for Lucid, that's amazing.
Yeah, it just has to trickle down to the lower cost vehicles at this point, but we're proven it's doable. It's here. I mean, don't forget, these are all starting at 0%. When you're on a road trip, you're not starting at 0%.
Yeah, good shout.
Let's say, you drive it down to 10 or 15%. Now, in the time it takes you to walk in and out, Martin, and do what you're talking about, use the restroom, grab a snack, no matter how fast you walk, when you get out there, you're going to be at about 80% state of charge, which we always say that's the point where if you're on a road trip, unplug and get out because it's not worth staying. So you're almost at any starting point, a walk inside the shop, a restroom break, a coffee, a snack, walk out, you're at 80%. There's absolutely no waiting. There's no, let's stay for another 5 minutes and let's get a few more miles. No, you're at 80% or better. Unless you really, have those nerves and drive it down to zero, which so few people do. Obviously, I recommend doing that for for long trips because you charge faster and you stop less. But I understand why you can't always get a charger at the right position. And people don't like going under 10%. Most people, a lot of people that I talk to say they feel very uncomfortable under 10% with their EV. So I understand that. But man, you plug this thing at 10 or 15%, you can't get out of that convenience store fast enough to unplug by 80%. You're going to be at 80%, which is, it's awesome.
Hey, when you get to that 45% on that graph, the one we were looking at when you took the phone call a moment ago, there's a little dip maybe at 40 to 50% or so. How did Lucid explain that? It's because it's not, and that's, look, as charge curves go, that is as smooth as a baby's bottom. But there is a little dip in there, right? What's that?
It should have been a little smoother. We think it was probably the Signet charger, because while they put out more, they can put out more than 350 kilowatts. They're really not like supposed to, and they're not like, they don't do it often. So I think we might have heated up the connector or something, and for we're talking for that, maybe it looks like a big blip on the screen, but it's not a long period of time at all. It might be a minute. It probably just derated for a minute and do that, because we didn't see that same type of a dip with Kyle's recording. So, and we used the same vehicle. So probably wasn't the vehicle. It was probably the charger, probably just had to back off something for a brief minute and then restart. But it was, I talked about it in my video and said the line kind of should have been a little bit more smooth here, but but it could have been the car. I mean, Lucid didn't think it was, but it's possible. This is still, very early on in their production. Something could have gotten a little warm, but that was a blip.
So why EVgo? Why Signet unit? Were you tossing up between, maybe I could go find this, maybe there's a new Iona station near where you were doing it, or Electrify America, or was that a slam dunk decision? Why go EVgo and that unit?
For what was available. First of all, in Northern California, it's hard to get a station that you kind of know that you can get a spot on. The stations are busy. I wanted to do a station where I can get the volts and amps reading from my recording. You can't get that with Electrify America. There was a nice Electrify America close by that they would have arranged to have a stall ready for me, so that I could have used it for sure. But there's two problems with that. Number one, we don't get the volts and amps. And number two, Electrify America's new software, they changed the screen's refresh rate. And if you notice, I haven't been using them lately on my recordings, because when I'm doing the recording, I get those slow lines going across the screen. I didn't used to get that before. So they did something on their end. And now when I'm doing a time-lapse recording, it's not as clear as I like to get it. So that's why I've been using EVgo. If there was an Iona station in Northern California, Kyle and I both probably would have wanted to go there. But there isn't. There aren't any there yet. Iona only has like 6 or 7 stations open. So at this point, I think more is coming pretty soon. But there was nothing in that area.
So clearly, the company wanted you to use a Tesla supercharger. Clearly, they allowed you 2 charge recordings on the proviso that one of them is that. And obviously, it's J3400. It's a NACS inlet natively. So they want to promote that. Clearly the company wants you to push that, or they insisted on at least one of them doing it. It's a very important test to do, but I wouldn't have minded if they'd said, well, if you don't get to do it this time, then we'll do it in 3 months' time. So why do you think that was such a big part of your test? They insisted on using a supercharger.
Well, because it's a big deal that it has a native NACS port, and that they solved their Tesla supercharger problem, let's say. A lot of Air customers are not happy when they go to a Magic Dock location that they're stuck at charging at 50 kilowatts. They're like, that's Chevy Bolt speed. We have a Lucid Air, we shouldn't be stuck with the commoners charging at 50 kilowatts, but that's what they are right now. And it's because the Air wasn't designed really to charge on Tesla superchargers. And, Imad talks about this a lot in my video. He probably talks about in Kyle's video too. The fact that, this kind of sideswiped them. They were not planning on doing this. They didn't think the industry was going to transition. The Gravity was more than a year into production, into engineering, when the whole NACS thing happened. And they had to it really disrupted their whole engineering. The vehicle probably would have been out already if that didn't happen. They had to move the charge port. They had to, um, develop that boost converter. The amount of the headaches that they got from this was enormous, but they had to do it at that point, and it's the right decision to make. New cars coming out in 2025. I'm for ripping the Band-Aid off as fast as possible, transition them to NACS, even though there's going to be some issues at this point, where the cars might not charge as fast if they don't have like a boost converter like this has. But just rip the Band-Aid off, have some pain for a couple of years, and we'll all be better off.
Hey, what's that? I just saw that real quick there on the back of your shirt. Is that one of your own custom state of charge shirts?
Oh yeah, my T-shirts.
Yeah.
I've had those for a while. I was wearing that when you were with me in at IANA that one day, because people asked me
the back though.
It says the plug is greater than the pump.
Beautiful.
Okay, are those for sale on your site?
I haven't sold them. No, I've been giving them away. I haven't. Maybe at some point I should sell them. I'm not a good merchandiser. People have asked me, "Oh, can I buy this? Can I buy that?" But I guess I have to put them on one of these days.
Yeah. What I know people get very worked up on the location of the inlet. Was that raised in terms of they just copied Tesla for supercharger access? It was the best place, shortest cables. Obviously, Rivian have moved it since we saw the concept or prototype versions. The early shots, I think they moved from one to the other. Did they talk about inlet location at all?
Not really. It was just kind of like, well, we had to put it there at this point. You know what I mean? Like, there's not much of a discussion. If you want to have access to Tesla superchargers, not block two stalls, that's where you put it. And there's not a lot of. I mean, everybody has their own opinion on where charge ports should be. It is kind of good in the front left-hand side of the vehicle, like Lucid, like the Air, like my Equinox, my Lightning. But I'm not really somebody who has like a strong feeling about one location or another. I can back in, I can pull in, but there are a lot of people that seem upset by that they moved it back there, that they see it as capitulating to Tesla. Doesn't bother me.
Yeah,
makes sense.
Yeah. Before we move off this subject, that my current thing with Lucid is they just need to find ways of making this vehicle and the whole company reach a wider audience. This is obviously a technical test that you did, but in your conversations, either on screen or off screen, did they address how they're going to get a bigger share of people's buying considerations, even before they're buying intent, just to put them on the map? Because with huge respect to Lucid, no one knows who they are. I mean, that I'm very broad brushstrokes I'm painting with. I'm not saying they're their new interim CEO has to go lead a government department and be the richest man in the world and buy a social media network to get that level of notoriety and fame. But was that talked about? Because this is a technological tour de force, but that doesn't cut through with many of the early mainstream people in this kind of premium segment, although they are very interested in being like early leaders and tech forward. Was that discussed at all?
I didn't really talk much about that. I know it's an issue. They know it's an issue. I think the Lucid people understand that they're struggling to become a household name. And they do sell a very expensive vehicle. And soon the second vehicle is also very expensive, out of the reach of the majority of Americans. Tesla didn't start selling vehicles in volume really until the 3 came out and the Y. But they had a name because they were first. Tesla was the first long-range, fast-charging, desirable electric vehicle that you could buy, that you could look at it and say, wow, that looks nice. That I want one of those. I mean, of course, Nissan Leaf was out, but, outside of a small niche of people, a lot of people didn't look at the first Leaf and say, wow, I want that in my garage. But you said that about the Tesla Model S. And so I think that really helped Tesla early on. They were the only game in town with a long-range desirable EV. But if you're watching on YouTube now, if that car came out, and I'm talking about the Lucid Air came out when the Model came out, I think we would have, seen Lucid get a lot more notoriety a lot faster. I think you might get more of that, Martin, this week when the journalists go out and do their regular full reviews of the car, talk to the people. Like we were talking to engineers, me and Kyle, they don't. That's not their deal. Talking about how do we get more people to look at Lucid? But I think honestly, if you're going to ask me, how do you do that? It's their next vehicle that's supposed to come out in a year or so, or a year and a half, I think. And that's supposed to be down under 50,000 or right at 50,000. It's still a little bit higher. It would be great if it could be 40, 45, but that's what's going to get them to be more household name. And I want to mention one thing quickly about the charge port location. It wasn't just for backing into Tesla Supercharger. It also was important that it was there for the DC to DC boost converter. I think it needed to be close to the motor of, or I don't know if it technically had to be, as much as it reduced cost and weight and everything. But that was part of the reason they gave us for having that the rear charge port location. It was important to have it there because of the boost converter was right by the rear motor. Amazing. Or in the rear motor.
Yeah. Okay, look forward to learning more about that. In the comments, Slayer33 says, and I haven't seen this in my news feed, by the way, so apologies if I missed that news this week. Lucid picked up Nikola's facility for $30 million. That's $600 million in assets for a bargain. Yeah, that is pennies on the dollar, isn't it? And that, if that's true, and I'm not doubting what you say, I haven't seen that news.
It's true. It's right here.
I haven't seen that come across the feed. So that's a Lucid press release. Is that dated today?
Today, yes.
Yeah, sorry, my screen is super small.
I put it in the notes. It's at the very top of our notes, but
hey, I'm sorry about that.
It's a last-minute addition.
Wow.
I'm disappointed by this. I was hoping, now that Trump pardoned Trevor, I was hoping that he would come out, buy it back, and get arrested again for lying again.
Yeah, just roll something else down another hill.
Exactly.
Totally different
I was
hill.
so hoping that we would see an announcement that he took over Nikola Motors again.
Oh
and
my
then,
gosh.
in a month later, he's got a flying truck, and you see a video of a truck hovering over the ground.
Definitely not CGI. Promise. Wink, wink. What's the other company, Dom, this week where the CEO that they filed either Chapter 7 or 11, and then the CEO's been allowed to buy the assets? What? I'm not going to say the name in case I get it wrong. Is it Workhorse? Is it Workhorse?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I wouldn't doubt it. So
I don't want to suggest that Workhorse, who might be in robust health, have got any financial difficulty. They might not be the one I'm thinking of. For all I know, Workhorse is going great guns and selling a bazillion vehicles. There was another one this week where there was outrage because the company, it might not be Workhorse, went under, and then the CEO was allowed to buy it back for a lot less money. Okay, so there is that. All right, well, Tom, we'll come back and talk about some more things that you have been testing in a moment. But let's talk about another big piece of news that I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, and that is the Cybertruck, which is now catering for people who maybe don't have quite as much money to spend on a truck, but really want the vehicle. We know that the Cybertruck has a serious demand issue. Now, we also know it was under a stop sale or a containment order for the last month of the quarter. So Q1's figures were something, just horrific, like 3,000 or 3,500 Cybertrucks in the quarter. But we know that's only 2/3 of the 3 months. But either way, it was a terrible, terrible number. And it is sequentially going down, down, down. They've built facilities, to make 250,000 Cybertrucks a year. The CEO said they could build 500,000 a year. He thinks that they could sell 500,000 a year. And they've sold, well, maybe 5,000 if I'm being generous. They won't tell us because they don't split. Unlike every other car company in the world, they refuse to tell us how many Cybertrucks are being made. Although we do find out because they keep getting recalls, and so we find out that way. However, they are fixing the demand issue with a cheaper version. Rear-wheel drive, cheaper version. Your stainless steel attention getter can be in your driveway for $72,235. $72,235 with destination and order fee included. That's 10 grand less than all-wheel drive, 37.5 grand less than Cyber Beast. And Dom is eligible for the $7,500 federal tax credit or incentive, which brings it down to $64,735. Now, as you pointed out, you mentioned it's a few $100 less than an F-150 Lightning XLT. So there are some other specs on this. It's a step down from others in power. Smaller 18-inch wheels. You might prefer the look of those. Textile seats rather than the vegan leather. It does come with the micro-suede fabric on the headliner and other surfaces as well. Towing is down, not 11,000, but £7,500. And it is, by EV standards, a little bit lethargic. It takes 6.2 seconds to get to 60 miles an hour, which I still think is insanely faster, but that is pretty slow by Tesla and other EV standards. But you get a bit more range because of that. Dom, does this solve the Cybertruck's problem of having many of them sitting on lots unsold? Will it sort out the demand issue?
I think it's going to help some for a little bit, but I don't think it really fixes the underlying problem. This is interesting. It looks like it has like a soft tonneau option. I don't recall seeing that before on the other ones. It's like the Vault, right? It's got that hard, tonneau cover that comes down and you can stand on it famously. This might not come with that either. I'm not sure.
It doesn't have the hard tonneau cover, Tom. Before you continue to comment, let me tell you what it doesn't come with compared to the long range all-wheel drive trim. Okay. No HEPA filter.
Oh.
No air suspension.
Oh.
No rear light bar. It has the bed has no tonneau cover included, but it is upgradable for a $750 option to the new soft tonneau cover. And that adds 17 miles of range. It has textile seats. Doesn't have the vegan leather that the all-wheel drive trim has on the long range. It has no L-track in the bed. It has no power outlets, no two 120 volt outlets in the bed, and no 240 volt outlet in the bed. No two 120 outlets in the cabin either. It has no heated rear seats and no ventilated front seats. No second row display screen. It has a 7-speaker audio system versus the 15-speaker audio system that the all-wheel drive Cybertruck has. No active noise cancellation, no mechanical locking front differential. Well, because it's single motor. The payload is lowered by 2,007 pounds. And the towing capacity is 7,500 pounds versus the 11,000 pounds on the all-wheel drive trim. And this list was put out by Sawyer Merritt on X. So he's generally very accurate, but that was his list. So that's what you get less for, when you sign up for the rear-wheel drive version.
Man, that's I don't know what to think about that. I mean, that's like a lot of stuff not there. I don't know.
The outlets, no power outlets.
It's kind of like, why would you get this instead of the Ford then? Which for like a few $100 more, you can get into the XLT all-wheel drive.
Oh, of course, yeah. But
it doesn't have the fancy steering wheel and things. But,
doesn't have rear wheel steering. This still has rear wheel steering. So the Ford doesn't have rear wheel steering. Good. Right? Yeah. The Ford doesn't have rear wheel steering, and also the you don't get a Cybertruck. I mean, people buy the Cybertruck, I think, as much as any reason is for how it looks, more so than the content it has. And so, but.
I think that's fair. I think some people might disagree. I mean, owners might disagree, but some owners might. Some are.
I'm sure.
Happy to.
But to me, that it's crazy that they eliminated this much stuff. Crazy.
Right, and we just learned also that they removed that battery extender, range extender battery. They removed that from the website this week as well. So that's not an option. So if you need more of the miles, so this one gets 350 miles of range with the two-wheel drive. You say if you get the soft tonneau cover, you can increase that even more.
No, well, if you get it without the soft tonneau cover, the range is 363 miles. If you get it with the $750 soft tonneau, it's 350. So it adds 17 miles of range, more aerodynamic. And someone posted in the comment section that they read it doesn't come with the rear wheel steering. I'm not 100% certain on that. I assumed it did because it wasn't on Sawyer's list that said no, that it was eliminated. But it's possible that it doesn't even have rear wheel steering. I'm not certain on that.
Right. So I don't think this moves the needle really that much. I think whatever issues they had selling it, they're going to continue. Like it's got that smaller wheels too, 18-inch wheels instead of 20-inch wheels. Yep. So it's going to look. I'm not sure how that will look on the road. I kind of feel like it needs the big, massive wheels just for appearance. It's all about appearances, right? So the bigger the better when it comes to wheels on a truck.
And one of the things I don't understand too is the used Cybertruck market. You look at the used Cybertruck market. There's so many of the vehicles that are over $80,000. Damn it, you could buy a new one for 72 with the tax credit. Like I don't understand it. My local Ford dealership here, Maple Crest Ford, where I bought my Lightning. I went down the other day to talk to the guys about something, and they had a Cybertruck sitting on the lot. And I said, "Oh, you got a Cybertruck in?" He goes, "Just got it in yesterday." So evidently, the guy enjoyed the truck, but he traded it in on a new Platinum Lightning, and it was because his family was getting harassed. People, which I do not support at all. I don't like what Elon's doing right now. I'm not. I'm turned off by Elon, but I do not support people harassing people that own these vehicles. And he said that he told the salesman, "I don't care. I can take the harassment. I'll flip the guy off. People give me a problem." He goes, "But when my wife and kids are in the car and people are yelling at, calling them Nazis and stuff as they drive," he said, he just went to the dealership and said, trade it in. He swapped it. So now they have it on the lot. And I asked him, "What are you going to ask for?" He goes, "I really don't know." So I looked at the thing. I think it was 85,000. I'm saying to myself, who the hell would buy this? I mean, you could buy a brand new one now, and it's not wrapped, and it's not a Cyber Beast. Who would buy this in the 80s? I see you're posting a lot in the 70s, but I see a lot in the 80s too. And you could buy a brand new one. You're still not down to the new purchase price. We're still at 74, 75 with the tax credit today. And most people will qualify for that. Not everyone. You're talking about a $72,000 vehicle. How come these prices are more than the new? It's not like there's a wait. Just go buy one from Tesla if you want one.
I think these people, they bought them and overpaid, and now they're trying to get their money out of it. And, good luck with that.
I think, certainly if people want to silently protest or protest with their spending power and their dollars, then they're more than welcome not to buy a product of a certain company, which is fine. Tom, you were away last week, but Lacey Misco Electric said that, she'd been in a Cybertruck and had her first experience I think it was a lady at the mall or something. And she was in a Cybertruck and got harassed. I don't think it was anything horrific, but that's still like, she's the most lovely person in the world, and you shouldn't be doing that to Misco Electric because she's here to promote all good things electric. And come on, I mean, you don't know who's in that vehicle. It could be kids. It could be, like you say, your wife is in there.
It's ridiculous.
Awful behavior.
Really, it's
Come
awful.
on, people. Come on.
You want to protest Tesla. You don't like Elon. You don't like the company.
Enough. Just don't buy the products. Don't buy
it. Put your dollar somewhere else. There's your protest.
Yep, absolutely. And there's so many of them used. There's so many of them. According to one data point, it was 2,500 have been produced and not sold, which isn't a huge number in the world of automotive, but it's probably quite a lot as a percentage. We think about 45,000 have been sold. Totally Cybertrucks, and it's fine. Any company can do. I'm not a Tesla shareholder, so I don't really, I don't care what they do, but I do care that they are, for many people, the figurehead of the EV industry, and so a strong Tesla. I think a strong Tesla is a strong EV industry, and there's no doubt that Tesla's moves early moved an entire industry to go electric. There's no chance that we'd have a Lucid Gravity that we've just been talking about it if it hadn't been for Tesla doing what they've done for the last 10 years. There's no way. They moved the whole industry. And so, I really want to see a strong Tesla. I think it's a shame that, obviously what's happening at the moment. I think the biggest shame, obviously over the last few weeks and what have you, and everything is kind of filtered now, and many people aren't still in a good place with the brand. I think the biggest shame is if, as the story goes, one of Elon's kids hadn't been raving about sci-fi and he was like, haha, that's cool, we should make that. And then they went away and made it. If they'd made any of the, we're going to talk about a truck in a minute. If they'd made something, and it's not got to be a carbon copy of an F-150 or a Silverado or, whatever, but something Tesla-like, man, where would we be now? Like, where would Tesla be now? They could have sold hundreds of thousands of their next vehicle. So that's where I'm. Like, what a shame. What a shame that they took a punt on something that is probably going to be at some point, much like the little Ranger boost extender thing that was never coming, was it? Just quietly discontinued. and that'll just the Cybertruck will disappear off into automotive history, and it'll be a real shame. What could have been? Wow, what could have been? Like man. Well, they could have been doing what the Chinese are doing. They could have been rolling out 800,000 kilowatt charging if they'd have put all their money and focus somewhere else. That's where I am with it. What a shame, man! What a shame. Where would the industry be with a focused Tesla? Oh man, they could have absolutely changed the world. What a shame.
Thanks, EV Geek, for that.
Yeah, thank you so much for your contribution.
Think something like a mix between a Rivian and a Scout, but with Tesla design and, fast charging, that's painted, with regular materials. I think, I have to think it would do better. Although, I have to be consistent on this. I give Tesla some credit as far as stepping outside of the comfort zone, because no other automaker would even consider doing anything like this. And you have to kind of give companies some credit when they do something that nobody else would consider doing, because it does move the needle in some ways. I mean, this might have moved the needle in the wrong direction. I'm not going to say which direction it moved it in, but it takes balls to make something that absolutely nobody else would even consider making. Same thing with their Falcon Wing doors on the X. Nobody's going to do those on a volume production vehicle because of all the problems that they have. But Tesla just walks to their own beat, and in that respect, I like what they're doing in that respect. I don't really love the final product, but you got to give them some credit with that, because they don't adhere to norms.
There was something on Reddit. Someone had used AI to. Oh, here we are. See if I can bring this up.
You got it. I looked for this earlier. I know what you're doing. Even I'm just guessing, but I'm pretty sure I know what you have.
Now it's whenever I share this. Then this is when my computer glitches out. So be prepared for max headroom any moment. Any moment. Is this working?
Oh no, it's not what I thought you had.
Oh, okay, right. Somebody had used some AI to imagine what if they'd really wanted to go with stainless and edgy design. Would people have bought this? I think yes. I think it's a brave leap, but I think I could have seen them on America's roads, and it would have changed the automotive landscape more than the Cybertruck. This is interesting. That's interesting,
right?
That's cool.
Well, the original the shape of the Cybertruck is like it is because at first it was supposed to be like a monocoque, right? Okay. And so that shape would kind of be like engineered more structurally sound, I think, than a traditional shape if you're trying to do like a monocoque kind of thing. But then they went away from that because it wasn't feasible, but they kept the shape. And man, that looks really good.
That's nice.
Could have been. I thought you were going to pull up I thought you were going to pull up. There's a picture out there where somebody photoshopped the front end of an Edsel onto the Cybertruck, and it looks. I haven't. It looked it's kind of neat actually. But
that picture definitely looked like R1S based.
Yeah,
I
right.
think so. Yeah, I think so. Yeah. But wow, that's very cool. What was that? That was in the subreddit Tesla Lounge. So if anybody wants to go have a look for that, and I saw it via Electrek about a week ago. So
and Paul Matthews points out that this is an SUV, not a pickup truck.
Yeah, I know that. Of course. Yes, I know that.
Yeah.
Yes,
but it could be like if you could use your imagination and just take the back of that off there a little bit. And
yeah. Hey, have you guys seen the pickup truck that's an SUV in Australia this week? While we're talking about
yes, is that a Deepal
E07. Oh, we've got to find a picture of that very quickly. Dom, find a picture of the Deepal or a video of the Deepal E07. That's a pickup truck where the roof slides back and the side and the back and the bed extends in a way. See if you can find a picture of the Deepal E07. Okay,
there it is.
So, but the whole rear end, that whole rear glass slides up and out of the way, and the back comes down, and it turns into a pickup truck. Now, I think this is partly because of the way that China regulates pickups, which is they treat them as commercial vehicles. So you've got to have 6 monthly road test worthiness certificates and all sorts. And so, and it's a push, and it's in 2 stages as well. So the glass will come up and give you some load space, and then you press the button again, and then it just all disappears and turns into a truck, which I thought was cool. And it's really cheap because it's coming out of China, and it's a Deepal. So who knows if
Right.
they'll be here in 5 minutes' time. But yeah, like that's on sale in Australia now. Oh, it's pre-ordering in Australia. Yeah, there you go.
Right.
I think it's cool. Like that's nice. That moves the needle in a way. Like some Aussie Ute drivers might think that's horrific, but some might go, looks pretty cool, mate. So I don't know.
70 grand Australian dollars. So that's like what, 50,000 American dollars?
48,000 American. Yeah.
Ah,
Yeah.
that's
Yes. Yeah. Maybe 45,000 American. Maybe half it. Yeah. Wow.
all-wheel drive.
So I think that's cool. Like, and otherwise,
All-wheel
it's
drive
very,
is a bit more.
very well appointed. It's got a rotating screen, I think, like the BYDs have. If that's what I'm thinking of. Yeah, pretty cool. But there we go. Sorry for the distraction on a Deepal
okay. That was great.
E07. Tom, you were also charging this week as well. And that was something a little bit different. You surprised us with a Cadillac Optiq 70 mile an hour highway range test video only yesterday. This was your first time in the car, wasn't it? So what did you think? Obviously, the range test is important of the Cadillac Optiq, but just generally, what did you think of the car?
I liked it. I mean, it's a an Equinox in a tuxedo. It's just a dressed up version of my car. But I enjoyed it. Interior, I really liked. Very comfortable. Really looked nice. I love those appointments. It does cost a solid 10 grand more than an Equinox if you're going to look at like option to option, maybe even a little bit more than that. But I had the all-wheel drive version. Got the same battery that I have. It's about 90 kilowatt hour usable, even though they talk about 85 is what GM posts for the vehicle. I think we've proven that it's a 90 kilowatt hour battery pack usable. So I did my range test. Conditions weren't ideal. I had it a week that it was actually unusually cold. So I started out the range test in the morning. It was almost in the 30s, but I had it in my heated garage overnight and I left the heater on to keep it at 65 degrees. So the battery was nice and warm. Took it to a charger, charged it up to 100%, got on the highway. Didn't do great. Average was 2.7 miles per kilowatt hour, which is lower than, what I averaged with my Equinox was 3 or 3.1. But I have the front wheel drive Equinox. I haven't road tested the rear wheel drive. But the Optiq has bigger wheels, wider tires. It's heavier. So it wasn't going to do as good as an Equinox side by side. The EPA range rating for this, though, is 302 miles. And I ended up at around 250. So, which wasn't good. And I wasn't able to maintain 70 miles an hour at like 249 miles. I ended up with like 252 or whatever. But I kind of call it when I can't maintain 70 miles an hour. And I was on the highway and it started to go into reduced power mode. And I was at like 4% state of charge, which I was very surprised that I couldn't maintain 70 miles an hour. So yeah, I ended up with, let's say 250 because it was 249 and change when it started slowing down. But I figured out why this was. So when I pull into the charger, by the time the range test was over, I'm still at like 2% state of charge. But that night I did a 0 to 100% charge recording. So I only charged it a little bit at that charger so I could just get home. So then that night I go to a DC fast charger and I bring Pete with me, Pete Bremy, who's in the comment section here. He followed me with my Lightning in case I had some sort of a problem because I was concerned that this was going into reduced power mode with like 4% state of charge. And I need to get this thing down to 0, So we arrive at the charger and I'm at like 2% state of charge, already in reduced power mode. I start driving around the parking lot and it just starts slowing down and slowing down. So I'm like, let me get this to the charger, even at 2%. So I turn around and head to the charger and it rolls to a stop about 25 feet from the charger. Dead. The light comes on, out of power.
With 2% on the dash, with 2% left?
2%. Well, yeah, it 2% state of charge. So then Pete pulls up with the Lightning and we charge it, for like 30 seconds, enough so I can just go 20 feet and do my charge recording. So I figured out what the issue was. This was a brand new Optiq. When they dropped it off to me, it had 200 miles. It probably was never even charged. It was charged at the factory, but then never charged again until I did the charge it up to 100% for the range test. And quite often when EVs are new, it takes 4 or 5 charging cycles to get the state of charge and the battery state of health calibrated properly. So it just was it was wrong. It was at 0 when it was at 2%, and that makes sense with the range test, because if you notice when I do my range test, I talk about each quarter of the range test from 100 to 75, 75 to 50, 50 to 25, and then 25 to 0. In the first three sections, we went farther than the last section by a lot, and had more accessible kilowatt hour. It was because the state of charge is wrong. When I recorded it at 75 percent state of charge, we're probably at like 72 or 73. So that was the reason why the last quarter of the range test was so disappointing. It was because the battery's calibration was wrong. So I would imagine that's going to correct itself over the first month or so of driving, because run it down, charge it up, run it down, charge it up, and the car finds its correct state of charge. But running out with 2% is not good. And but I understand it. I've seen this happen with brand new fresh EVs before. This was probably the lowest miles I ever got a loaner from, and I was the first one that they gave the car to here in New Jersey when it came to the New York fleet management fleet. So, but yeah, and I also did the 0 to 100 charge recordings and 10 to 80% charge recordings and all that, which we'll get into soon also on state of charge.
Yeah. So if anyone is again new to EVs and wondering why it's not like a filling tank where you could literally drop the tank and empty it and see how much, you can't cut open a cell and pour out electricity, and a BMS, which is the battery management system of an EV, is measuring a ton of things. And it's not as simple as just looking at the voltage of the cell, but it can measure the current in and out. It can look at ambient temperature. It can look at voltage, of course, and a bunch of other things as well, in terms of how it counts how many units of energy is in an EV battery pack, and that changes from chemistry to chemistry. So it's not like you can have a definitive answer when a cell is brand new and then you put them all together to build a pack.
Yeah.
What that state of charge is.
Battery numbers are always a little squishy.
Yeah, which people might find, hang on a minute, I know I can drain my gas tank and I can see exactly what's in it. Kind of not the way cells work. And so that's a really good point. And I don't think any other EV reviewer or tester in the world would have made that connection. So thank you, Tom.
If you're on YouTube, take a look at the chart up here. See this kilowatt hour used in each segment. See how perfect timing when that circle comes up. The last session we only had 20 kilowatt hour accessible, which goes to show you, when that segment started, I probably wasn't at 25%. I was probably really at like 22 or 21%. That we got the more percentages for the upper segments because the car wasn't reading the state of charge properly.
So what you're saying, Tom, is that when you get a new EV, not only do you have to spend half of your day just driving around the turnpike, draining it, that you've also got it to charge it and discharge it maybe 2 or 3 times before you do a test. So just write the week off then.
That's the thing. I only get the cars for a certain amount of time, and the cars have such great range these days. Years ago, the range tests were easy. They were more like 100 to 30 miles, whatever. Yeah. But now, if I want to do 2 complete charge recordings, right, that means I have to drain the car twice. And if it's got 300 miles of range, I've got to drive 600 miles just for my charge recordings, not for anything else. So it's a lot of driving.
Do those cars get is that on Supercharger access now with an adapter or not? Are they get access to the network? They do. Okay. I
actually just put out yesterday a video that it's everything you need to know about charging your Cadillac EV on a Tesla supercharger. Because I get a lot of people ask me those questions about all the different makes. Tom, how do I charge a Kia on a supercharger? So I'm making these specific videos. So if people go and search, charge a Cadillac on a supercharger, they'll have a video, and I go through like how you set up your apps and all that stuff and everything. It's not for people that really understand EVs. That's a beginner's video. So if you know what you're doing when you're charging, you don't have to watch that video. But if you're new to EVs and you get a Cadillac EV, this shows you how to set up your app. Explain how Cadillac
there we go.
How do you set up your app? How do you find Tesla chargers within the app? and how to use adapters and all that stuff. So.
Well, we've talked Cybertruck already on the podcast, and people in the comments saying, but no one uses them as an actual truck. In the past, we've talked about a little startup Tello trucks making a little mini truck. But what about yet another one on the way? This week, we found out via the tech website TechCrunch. They published a report that a startup backed by Jeff Bezos is working on a new electric truck, and they described it as a $25,000 electric truck. And this report said it'll be selling by late 2026. So there's plenty to dig into. And if you are perhaps a little bit skeptical, then you wouldn't be the only one about this. It's a very thorough piece, though. The TechCrunch article is mainly more focused on the company. Obviously, Bezos is a megastar in tech world, not so much the little EV truck that we would be interested in. So Slate is the name of it. Slate was initially created as a project called Recar about 3 years ago. That was within an overall company called Rebuild Manufacturing. That's an incubator co-founded by former Amazon consumer CEO Jeff Wilk and Miles Arnon. And if we have an idea what it looks like, it was spotted on a flatbed tow truck in Long Beach, where it had been shown off to investors. So Dom will work on bringing that up while I tell you a little bit more about it. This $25,000 price tag is perhaps the most eye-catching thing about it, because otherwise it looks pretty conventional. A throwback, some might say, in some respects, to what many thought a proper pickup truck would be back in the day. None of your tiny bed, double cab, sort of luxury vehicles. This is a two-door, no extended cab version of what you can do with a truck. No real specs, you won't be surprised to hear. This wasn't even a company launch, but these things tend to surface when they're ready to surface, if you know what I mean, with a friendly journalist and a little report to get it out there. It isn't building its own motors, and it isn't building its own powertrain. According to a job listing, Slate plans to source its high-voltage battery pack, electric motors, and other tech-related stuff from outside suppliers. All right, now, I know, Dom, you've been looking under the skin of this week. Obviously, the Bezos name and Amazon attached to it, the $25,000 price tag attached to it got a load of attention, and then a convenient spy shot. Oh, maybe I'm too cynical in my old age. Dom, what do you reckon of this, then?
I think maybe we're being a little cynical. I think so. I think Sean O'Kane, I believe, is the name of the guy who wrote this up, and he's been looking into this thing. He caught wind of it like a year ago, I think. So he's been kind of like digging around for some time, and finally just got this out. And then just after, he didn't have this photo came out just afterwards, but he does mention it being shipped down to Long Beach, I believe it was, to some little design studio down there, kind of in a nondescript neighborhood, and somebody managed to snap a picture, and that showed up like days later. And yeah, that's what it looks like. I mean, I've got a lot of thoughts about this thing.
This is right up your street, right? This is a throwback utility single cab.
I mean, I like a lot about it.
Your cup of tea.
I kind of like an extended cab. I'm not sure if that bed's like long enough, really. It looks like a, I don't know, 5.5 foot bed to me from here, but that's obviously a guess. I just think, man, this is just a tough proposition. At $25,000 for that truck. So it's going to have like LFP batteries, maybe bench seats inside. So the idea of the company is that they're basically, they want to make the money. The margins on this truck are going to be like paper thin. So they want to make the money on accessories, like high margin accessories. So basically, this is like a platform that people will hopefully, add to it. They trademarked an expression or a phrase called "We built it, you make it," and I'm sure there's something in there called like clean slate as well, right? There's an opportunity for some playing with the name. Slate's an interesting kind of name, just like that. So you start with this clean slate, and you spend a bunch of money to make it less clean, I guess. Maybe you can put in bucket seats and tonneau covers and roll bars and a bull bar on the front. I mean, there's lots of room, I guess, for add-ons. I'm not sure, but but I'm still not sure if it's how viable it is, the idea, because I think to get a truck down this cheap, you're gonna need a lot of scale, and I just don't know if the addressable market is like big enough. Like people, you hear people say all the time that they want, like, this is the truck they want. A lot of guys out there in social media world, this is what people have been screaming, dying for forever, and it looks like it's coming next year. Is it next year? 26? Yeah.
Yes.
And so, I mean, we'll see. If that's the Slate is an anagram of Tesla, Mach-E Vlog says. That's an interesting little
Observation, isn't
tidbit
it?
observation. Yeah, so smart.
But it's got some
Right.
it's got some industry people that have got some experience in automotive / biking world, right?
The chairman, I believe, was at Harley Davidson for 20 years, and the CFO also has Harley Davidson experience, and that's another company where they sell relatively low margin on the bikes, but they make a lot of money on accessories and clothing and all the Harley Davidson merchandising is like, that's a huge industry just unto itself. And so I guess they're looking at that sort of approach here.
Well, Harley's a bit like Ferrari, isn't it? Like, Harley is way more than the vehicles that are made. It's a lifestyle. It's like with all the tariffs on Ferraris coming in, Ferrari were like, nah, we'll be fine. So thanks for your concern, but we'll be fine. And so there's, if this is a blank slate, obviously there's the name. Amazon would be a great place to go and add to your vehicle. Go and get this, which is the blank slate, and then what do we want to add to it? What do you want to do with a vehicle like this? I would presume that includes technical specs. So then add a front motor, add a bigger battery, as well as all the other different accessories. And you would think these days subscription services too for fleet management, telematics, charging services, things like that as well. I'm guessing Amazon are very experienced in all that. I'm not saying this is Amazon. I'm just, obviously the Bezos name is attached. Amazon's very experienced with that, with running their own electric fleet now. Of working out what they do with vehicles when they charge and when they're on the road and the journeys they're doing. So you could add all of those services, which would be a whole different profit line. So it's very interesting.
I mean, I think this would be great. Like, so if I was like 18, 19, 20 years old, I would want one of these because I think this would be a great entry level vehicle for, like, especially young guys. I just feel like, a little truck. It's not too expensive. I bet you it's probably going to have like decent performance. I imagine it's the LFP battery, so probably not like supercar kind of a performance, but I mean, compared to what the little Toyota Tacoma was back in the day, this thing should get up and go. But yeah, I think that's like an entry point for that. I guess it'd be great. You can see it. Someone mentioned municipalities using it as a work truck, lawn service people. In my mind, I worked for an auto parts store for a couple of years, so in my mind, I'm seeing like this would be in like every auto parts store parking lot because they deliver parts all over town to the different garages and things, and this would be like pretty perfect for that, really. I did that in a Tacoma, basically. Yeah, free shipping on if you have Prime. Yeah,
Dom,
free shipping.
Dom, this or Tello, if you can get one.
Tello. I like more if they had this if it had an extended cab, maybe.
Yeah, okay. Tello sits more people, right? So
yeah, you can get
more of a utility vehicle.
Well, yeah, 5-ish people in there.
Wow, that's very interesting. And again, I've made too much of a connection. Craig says, didn't Amazon build a smartphone? Yeah, I mean, Amazon, I've read whole books on Amazon in terms of data, things they know about you. I'm fascinated by the company because I want to understand how it works. Obviously, there's a lot of people feel very strongly about Amazon in terms of the destruction of local high streets and shops. And I ordered my kid a thing last night. He's 7 and he's into YouTube videos that do things with magnets. I don't know, like 7-year-olds and YouTube kids. And he'd done all his chores and he ticked all his things off this week. So we ordered last night before he went to bed. He got like some colored magnet things that you play with. And I got the text this morning at 8 a.m. Because I sent it to an Amazon locker near where we live because Yeah, I knew that you get stuff quicker that way. And that was like 12 to 14 hours after I ordered it. And I woke up this morning to the text saying, here's your Amazon locker code. And like, that is, ridiculous is the best word I can think of. That is ridiculous. I didn't even have to leave like house to order it, and it was cheaper than anything in the shop. So, but I get all the arguments about how Amazon can abuse its power and its dominance, and so maybe I've over-egged the pudding a bit by using the Jeff Bezos name. There's no suggestion here that this is an Amazon company that I know of, by the way.
Well, there's a lot of Amazon kind of like it came out of an Amazon sort of spin-off that car
incubator,
yeah,
tech
incubator, yeah, which was originally Recar or something.
So,
I'm not sure.
They've tried loads of stuff over the years. Like they've tried, they still do the tablets and the smart speakers. They've tried mobile phones and also. And it's fascinating how the company works. How anyone in the company can pitch an idea or a product. I forget. I listened to an audiobook years ago. I think they called it like a one-pager or something. Like if you get time in a room with Bezos, and then no one speaks for like an hour, so or maybe it's like a 3-pager or something, and you present your whole idea, the whole business plan, and then you go to a meeting and you sit and you read it. And it's the first time anyone reads about it. So like, okay, the Amazon smart speaker idea, like the person that thought of that in the company or that wanted to have that as a business unit, you have to do it. You have to write it all down. They sit in a meeting, they read it. Then they have questions, and if they like it, then they will greenlight it and give you maybe 200 engineers and go build that business unit. And it's a fascinating company in terms of how they take bets, and the bets often fail. But like if that kind of mentality is behind this vehicle, I wouldn't bet against it.
Yeah, no, it should be. It should at least like start off. I mean. I don't think it'll have too much trouble getting off the ground. So they've had one funding round. The Series A funding was $111 million, and I think they haven't published the results of the second B round yet. But looking at the numbers, it looked like they did like 500 million shares at $2.37, which comes up to 1.1 something billion dollars, that's enough to get you going. I think that's a decent amount of cash. So I have little doubts that it's going to happen. Let's see if it can be viable over long term. I don't know. That's where the rubber hits the road, basically. See if you can really get the sales you need to sustain that kind of a price point. I think that's the challenge.
Well,
there's just a lot of challenges where it's going to be built, and I mean,
well, yeah, they say around Indianapolis, I believe they said, but I looked, I couldn't find any. I did a really quick look. I couldn't find any like abandoned or manufacturing or factories that are already like for sale or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all love the concept of a small pickup truck, electric pickup truck.
Yeah.
We all love that, but. And we like the idea that maybe a Bezos, somebody with that type of power and influence and money is behind it, can get things done. But still, we all know how hard it is to start these companies, and where's it get fixed? There's so many questions still that we need to ask before I get excited about it. But I love little electric pickup trucks. I love the Tello concept. I like this concept. I could definitely see myself getting a small electric pickup truck. 100%, but it's still so new. Like we don't know a lot about this, but the excitement, as we've been talking about, is the fact that it seems like it's Bezos backed. And when you're Jeff Bezos and you put your mind to doing something, you've got the money to make it work. It seems like a lot of these little startups fail because they don't have enough money and enough financing behind them. But when you're talking about one of the richest people in the world, that problem can go away quickly.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I'm not sure exactly how close he's personally invested in this company. They use his name in the. I think they use his name in the headline, sort of as a way of saying Amazon, basically.
Yeah.
Well, but
basically, we have a lot more to learn about this. before I get excited.
Kerry says
Right.
billionaires get distracted quickly. Not all of them, Kerry. Amazon's been in the works for a while, and it does okay. So let me try and tempt you with a different electric truck then, Tom. If you're not convinced with the Slate, Kia is developing a truck specifically for North America, arriving before 2030. They say that's as close as we can get. No other specific details other than Kia's statement that the new utilitarian EV will feature what they say is best-in-class interior and cargo space, as well as a robust towing system. They're saying all the right things, advanced infotainment, and some off-road chops. Last year, a vehicle that looked like they'd made a pickup from an EV9 was spotted at a charging station. There is some speculation around what that could become. And again, you know, Kia has all the places to fix it. Kia has all the places to sell it and service it, and they've got some pretty good industry chops as well in terms of what they've done with EVs. Arguably the South Koreans, and outside of what the Chinese car makers are doing, are best in the business in some people's opinions. So will a Kia electric truck interest you more, Tom?
Yeah, I like what Kia's doing. I don't know if this is going to be more of like a, is this on that same scale? I think this is going to be a little bit bigger than what we're talking about. What I was talking about is I would like to have a little electric pickup truck, small like the Tello or
compact,
super compact one. I don't know if this is in that class, right? I haven't gotten the dimensions. Seems like it's closer, if not the same, maybe a little bit smaller than my Lightning, which I don't need a Lightning replacement. I'd like a little pickup truck to tool around town with, but I don't doubt that Kia will do a good job on this. I really like what Hyundai and Kia are putting out these days.
Yeah, me too.
I like the idea of an EV9 turned into a pickup truck, though. It's just, I don't know why. Maybe I don't know. But I like the idea. But it's like Tom says, it's not like the size that people are really kind of like anxious to get a hold of, like a compact. That'd be more like a mid-size probably, or mid to full size, basically.
I mean, the pictures look like it wasn't that much shorter than my Lightning, but I mean, it could be wrong. So
especially if it's an EV9 with,
Yeah, then you're competing with the big boys, and that market's getting crowded. You've got we've got R1T, the Lightning, Silverado, Denali, Cybertruck, Scout soon.
I think the Ram Charger is very interesting.
Ram Charger. So
Toyota's bringing one too, but a mid-size, right? At some point.
Who knows? Toyota.
Yeah. All right. Well, look, if you're gonna release a vehicle into a segment, let's move on then. If you're gonna release a vehicle into a segment, you might as well go up in against the most popular cars in the world, and that is the kind of family Model Y segment. Model Y is the best-selling vehicle in the world, passenger vehicle for the last 2 years running. So Mazda said, all right, we'll have a go. Mazda released its latest EV this week, the EZ60. It's a crossover. Built on a platform from Mazda's Chinese partner. We've mentioned them already, by the way. Chang'an. Now, Chang'an own the Deepal brand, and we mentioned the Deepal E07, that weird trucky SUV thing. The Deepal S07, that vehicle is on the same platform as this. So, single motor or dual motor, 2 battery options, either a 69 or 80 kilowatt hour. So the smaller pack is LFP, the bigger pack is NMC. And Mazda have got a rich heritage in automotive world, a very, an ardent fan base, small, but lots of people who love Mazda really love Mazda. They've got their enthusiast groups. I always think their styling, for me, they always kind of knock it out of the park, really, especially more recently. Love what they do. We have some video. I don't know if I've been thinking about this vehicle. I've not been looking down at my screen whether Thomas showed it already, but Mazda shared it on their Weibo account.
I'm working on it
to give you a decent look at this, a Tesla Model Y rival that looks very good. Again, we don't know till we drive it, but there's a name, Mazda, that has sort of slow walked their way into electric vehicles, given it a go, made some compliant stuff. And let's have a look right now on screen for our audience who follow us on YouTube and Twitch.
I think the Mazda really brings the design to this thing. So underneath is like this Chang'an platform, but
Chang'an.
But I think the styling here is really interesting. Like there's little pass-throughs, like in the back, the D pillar in the back there, or C pillar, I guess. Little, like for the air to pass under between the body panel and the actual vehicle. So that's kind of nifty.
Right there.
You can see it there.
Yeah, you can see that, and they've made obviously
Yeah,
a
and
feature of that.
it's got the Mazda, that Kodo style that they often talk about. I think it's a pretty good looking vehicle, and I don't know if that's going to be. I mean, from what I was reading, the Depot brand that this is kind of the platform it comes from is liked. I mean, the performance numbers weren't mind blowing or anything, but they've got some decent tech in there with the Snapdragon chips or whatever, and I think they've got some ADAS from Xiaomi. So there's some good tech definitely in there, and it just needs like a design. And I think Mazda's really nailed this design down. At least, well, if you like Mazda, it's a very Mazda looking vehicle, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It looks cool.
Yeah.
What's the odds of us seeing that here in the States, though?
That's the thing, isn't it? Yeah, I didn't want to say it.
Slim to none. I'm
Slim to
guessing.
none.
Yeah, it's like a global vehicle. I mean, I believe they're planning on it's like a global vehicle, but I mean, right now we're losing all kinds of because of the tariff situation. A lot of cars aren't coming here now, and some aren't. Some that were coming aren't coming. Like Lotus, it looks like Lotus is not coming now. Which was always, I mean, they've been struggling to get into the market anyway. They showed us cars, they brought cars. Kyle drove them, loved them, but trying to get them here, I think you might be able to find one or two on like cars.com basically, but maybe even, I don't even know. But anyway, yeah, that's selling in the US right now is going to be tricky unless you build it here. Yeah.
Yeah, of which Volvo, we didn't mention that last week, did we, on the show? Volvo's new CEO, who's the old CEO, Håkan Samuelsson, saying they will add one more Volvo to the line, which makes the EX90 and the Polestar 3. Where's that, Georgia? And he was saying we're going to add one more Volvo, but which one they make is TBC. I don't know what it'll be. I know that the EX30 is selling huge amounts here in Europe. Of course, made in China, soon to be made in Belgium. If it's not already, I know the line has been invested in terms of updating it, but whether that Ghent production has started, I don't know. But until now, made in China. And then we saw the news today that the EU and China are talking about how do we get rid of obviously the EU wants to ensure a level playing field, and there are very unfair subsidies in China for various reasons. And the EU saying, well, how do we get rid of those in response to what's happened stateside? How do we? That could be we'll build some BYD factories in Germany, and maybe we just won't sell them as cheaply to give the German car industry a chance. And then, then we don't need tariffs on Chinese cars coming in, which would be a real shame. Not for me. It wouldn't be for you, because you'd never see these kind of vehicles. So yeah, I don't know. That was today's news.
Not China, but Taiwan. This is also at the bottom notes. This is kind of under everybody's radar. Nobody knows about this thing really, I think, in the US yet. It's really under the radar. But we could see this car coming here this year, this fall. Not like this is what we're seeing on screen now. These are like there's a rally version of it, but this was built by Honhai, which is Foxconn. Yeah, better known, makes iPhones. They also make cars. This car is now sold already since 2021 as the Lucid brand in Taiwan. But they have a North American version they've put together with a U.S. car company of some kind. I'm not sure who or what yet, but it's supposed to be here this fall. So I think we're going to hear more about it. They just call it Model C, basically. So they're bringing like this Model C and a Model D to the U.S. and they've got a few other. They've got a portfolio, I think, of like 7 vehicles, which includes like a couple buses. So they have these two coming here. Then they have a few vehicles coming to like Japan and Taiwan and a few other like markets like that.
Interesting. All right. Yeah. Foxconn's obviously a big deal. made lots of promises over the years in terms of getting into the automotive and sector, and never just quite finished, done the deal that gets them over the line. So we'll wait and see.
Right. I just
But
turned up
interesting.
the Model D that they're talking about. I think they're talking about 2027 for this one. And
There's a
it's
lot of
more like
CGI in here. There's a lot of CGI. There's a lot of wishful thinking. But hey,
I mean,
it's
it's a
Foxconn, and
real company.
they make a couple of iPhones a year, so they probably know what they're talking about. But they've promised a lot in terms of partnerships over the
Mhm.
years. It's not,
True.
you can't say that they've gone into the automotive sector seriously yet. But
Designed by Pininfarina, apparently.
hmm.
It's got the ultra luxury back seats in the Model D. So I feel like whatever they sell here under that name would be not quite like this, more American. But we don't know what the brand, because they're not going to sell it under Foxconn brand. It's going to be they have a company lined up to kind of take care of all that, do all the and that could be an existing company. I know they've been trying to hook up with Nissan and have a partnership with Nissan, or I think they'd settle for Mitsubishi even, but they want Nissan.
That's the Mitsubishi story as well this week.
Yeah.
Well, we'll wait and see. Again, I'm a little skeptical, but there we go. Right, before we go this week, between now and when we are back on the air next time, if you want your fix of what's happening in the charging world, you can check out evchargingstations.com, which we've mentioned already. Tom, you said a couple of weeks ago that one of the excellent names which people will recognize from a long time at Inside EVs is now Mark Kane, is now writing some brilliant stuff on evchargingstations.com for you, which is I should point out, which is Tom's website, which tells you everything you need to know about charging electric vehicles if you didn't know already. But the new section of that is coming on Great Guns. One of the stories that Mark wrote for you, Tom, recently was that Tesla opened 2,200 supercharging stalls in the first quarter of the year, which again I think is the underreported bit of the business amongst all the controversy around Tesla. Over 2,000 supercharging stalls opened in the first quarter of the year. Where was that? Was that globally?
Yes, that was
worldwide.
globally. Yeah, first quarter.
So look, that's like they just keep. I mean, I go back to why I asked you, and I kind of knew the answer half anyway. But why did Lucid go so big on making you go to a Tesla supercharger? Well, for this very reason, because this is just the best charging network in many people's eyes. They're everywhere. The sites are huge. They always work. And Tom, just another really big result for Tesla supercharging.
Yeah, we talked a lot, and I was one of the people that criticized Tesla when Musk fired the charging team. And then shortly after he fired the charging team, if you remember, he put out the statement as well, we're going to start to focus more on site uptime and quality rather than continuing to build at the pace that we have. So a lot of people, myself included, was like, God, that's kind of wild that you'd make that statement now, which he made. There's no going back on that. He said we're going to focus on site quality and not continue to build out at the rate we are. And now that we see that that's not true, they did continue to build at the rate that they were building at. If anything, they've accelerated that rate. I think it was kind of Elon maybe just was a knee-jerk reaction and a statement to people criticizing him for firing everybody. That was his way of justifying why he fired 500 people, to say, well, we don't need these people anymore. We're gonna focus on quality now rather than building out the network. And we did find that shortly later he hired back a good portion of those people, and a lot of the top people left and went to other companies. I know that for a fact because I know some of these people. But a majority of the people were hired back, and it didn't slow. Maybe it was a blip for a couple of months, but it didn't slow them down. They're continuing to install superchargers, as I believe they should. I said, at the time, Tesla had their throat on the necks of the public charging industry. You don't let your foot up I said had the throat on the necks, had their foot on the throat of the industry. You don't let it up when you're in that position. You keep putting the pressure on, and they are. It still is. It's amazing. I think worldwide, Tesla has 17% more stalls than it did a year ago. That's amazing.
Yeah.
When you think about that, a 17%, they already had enormous amount of stalls, and a 17% increase year over year is just remarkable. So they're not going anywhere. They're going to continue to really put pressure on everybody else. But there's a lot of other players coming now. We talked about Iona. Um, there's another network I alluded to a couple weeks ago that I'm going to have some more information on soon. But
next week, can we talk about that next week?
No, probably not. I had
Okay.
to push things back for some other things that I had scheduled here. So it's still I think we're still 2 weeks out, to be honest with you, of me talking about it. But I'm super excited about what's going on with this new network, and I'm really confident now that where I was kind of disappointed when we learned that the infrastructure bill was going to get defunded. I'm at a good place now with believing that the country is going to have very good, robust infrastructure by the end of this decade. I think
Oh, yeah.
we're going to be, while we won't be done, we'll never be done.
It'll never be done.
But I think by the end of this decade, the amount of charging stations, high speed, 350 plus, 400 plus, is going to make transitioning to an electric vehicle very easy, even for people that don't live in a private residence that controls their own electricity. So we're this is I'm very happy to see that where we're going, as long as Iona doesn't slow up at all, which they give me no indication that they're going to. And by the way, Iona, I'm going to have a video coming out soon. They lowered all their prices. It's temporary lowering, but they dropped all their prices on their 6 sites. I think it's more of to kind of see if lower prices brings in more people. So if you guys live near an Iona site, go and use their chargers. Show them that lower prices incentivize you going to use their. It was kind of it didn't get any oxygen, this story, that all the prices now are like down in the low 30 cents per kilowatt hour. So if you live near an Iona site, they're all discounted now. So go show them that yes, you will use their stations more if their prices are lower. And they're still trying to find their way, Iona, and they admit it. The top management says, look, we haven't figured this all out. So we're going to try different things. We're going to pull different levers. We're going to try to make a better charging experience. We're going to try to, locate them in places that don't have charging stations now. We're going to offer amenities that aren't offered. We're going to try to make our stations super reliable. But give us your feedback. Tell us what do you want? For now, at least you can get some discounted Iona prices. But in any event, with Tesla continuing to put their foot on the accelerator, with these other networks coming online, I think we're going to be in a good place in 5 or 6 years.
Can't wait to.
I think very good
more
place.
about that. Yeah, absolutely.
I like to see more street charging plans for the cities. It's really, I think, the part that's really missing, like street parking in cities or suburbs, or not suburbs, but neighborhoods. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a seaside town not far from me called Brighton, and they're putting in 6,500 or so on street, level 2 chargers.
You charge a lot of money for that.
Yeah,
just saying. Sorry, just like not to, because like overnight. Yeah, so in England, the UK, you can get through Octopus Energy, you can get your electricity for like 7 pence. Which is like 7 cents, I guess, a kilowatt hour.
About 10 cents. About 10 cents a kilowatt hour. Yeah.
Okay, but they were like, but I think that overnight charging thing in Brighton is it's like 30 some cents or 30 some pence a kilowatt hour, which is
about 32.
It seems like
pence, and that's half
quite a premium.
Well, our DC fast charging is between 70 to 85 pence per kilowatt hour, which is about $1 a bit.
Right, but this is AC, right? AC.
So that's AC charging. It's overnight AC charging at 34. Like I say, I pay 7 pence. It's about 10 cents. But I pay 7p overnight. And actually during the day, if I plug my car in, because Octopus do an intelligent tariff where if the grid is green and if they're buying it on the wholesale market at the right price, they'll even turn my car. I just plug my car in and I say, I want this much charge at this time of day. I'm going somewhere and I need 80% charge. And honestly, it works so well. Like I was very, very, and you can completely override it and do it manually. And if you don't trust the algorithm, but after a while, I now just completely trust it. It's never let me down. If I'm leaving, early or whatever, or I need to go somewhere, and you just say this state of charge, and it'll turn your car on and off as they're buying it on the wholesale market and pricing, or the amount of renewables. They're a big renewable company, and so yeah, 7p, and my electricity has gone down to 7p at the moment because I've got the car plugged in behind me.
Nice.
And which is crazy because it's also very sunny, but that's probably why it's 7p. But I have my own solar panels, and I'm going to get back to cleaning them now because I stopped halfway through to go to do this podcast. So I'm going to get back up the ladder. It's a job that I can only do when Mrs. Lee is out of the house. She is away with our little ones at the moment. And so she does not like me cleaning the solar panels. And there's a good reason for that because it would be a very bad day in the office if I fell off the roof. So I have to do it when she's out. And she doesn't watch this podcast, so she'll never find out. But they'll be shiny by the end of today. And I'm going to go and I'm halfway through. So I'm going to finish cleaning outside. Does it make a difference? Not really. I don't clean them and then all of a sudden I'm making a load more electricity, but hey, makes the house look nice. And I feel like a daredevil up there. So there we go. You only live once.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Mark, before we cut out, I just want to mention one last thing. So I'm going to have another adapter video coming up soon. Probably not for a week or so, but there's a new adapter coming to the market that it's not available yet. It's going to be available really soon. That I find interesting. There's a lot of these NACS adapters out there now, most of which I don't even want to look at or review because they're cheap garbage. But when one comes along that I think is worthy of discussing, I'll mention it and I'll review it. So I'm holding the adapter here, which is made by Amphenol. Now, Amphenol is one of the biggest companies you've never heard of. Okay. They're an enormous parts supplier. Tier 1 supplier they make connectors, antennas, cables, sensors. There's Amphenol like pieces and bits probably in every DC fast charger you've ever charged on. So this is a big company. I mean, last year $15 billion in revenue last year. This is not some little Chinese startup that you've never heard of. They would not put out a product if it wasn't high quality. It's too much to lose. So if you notice, the form factor is interesting. It's very similar to the Tesla form factor of the adapter, right? Slightly bigger. It's a lot heavier. It feels way better made than the Tesla adapter, and it's different than the gun style adapters that we're used to for most of the other companies. This is Electron. This is A to Z. So the thing that's unique about this is you're looking at the very first UL2252 approved NACS adapter. Amphenol said they would not even consider bringing an adapter to market unless it was UL certified. So this guy is UL certified. Now it's UL certified for 1,000 volts, 380 amps. A lot of people are going, oh, that stinks. These other adapters are 500 amps. None of these other adapters are UL certified at 500 amps. The manufacturer has said they're 500 amp adapters. Wait till they go through UL 2252 certification. I am predicting that many of these adapters that we know will not get UL certified for 500 amps. I think you're going to see 380 on a lot of these adapters. And it's because of the way that the testing facilities are, let's say, interpreting UL 2252. They're erring on the side of caution. They're making it very, very strict as far as how they're tested for heat dissipation and heat. They're, for instance, I'll give you one thing. They're not allowing, during the testing process, they don't use liquid cooled cables. Most of all the charging stations have liquid cooled cables, the high power charging stations. So what does that do? Well, it cools the connector off. So now there's less heat transferring from the connector to the adapter. If the cable and the connector is hotter, the adapter is going to get warmer. And then it could trigger it going over UL 2252's certification. This guy here is, we're going to get other adapters soon, UL 2252 certified. But this one here, according to the company at least, is the first one. And none of the other companies have told me, oh, we got UL 2252 certified, we're done. So they would have. They all know that I review these things. So I'm going to be using this one for a while. It feels extremely well made. Well, it feels as well made as the A to Z and the Electron, which the reason why I've always kind of promoted those. They seem super well made. I've seen engineering reports on them and everything on how they're made. But this guy here seems extremely, extremely well made. I've seen the UL 2252 certification, the test reports from the labs. I can't publish those, unfortunately. But this is I think this is going to be another option for you guys. And what I like about it, the one thing I didn't like about the Tesla adapter was how you release the NACS side. There's a little a toggle switch down here, and it's awkward when you have the connector attached. You have to kind of reach under and pull it down and then pull it out. Amphenol realized that was a problem and people didn't like it, so it's not there. It's on the side. This guy here, you push it down and it releases both sides. And there's also a release button on the top just for the CCS side, but this guy here releases both the NACS and the thing. So it's interesting. See it there on the side of the adapter. So I think it's fair to say that there's another adapter out there now that I think is a viable option. I don't have pricing on it yet. You can't even buy it yet, but they wanted to get it out to me to kick it around, use it for a little while, and see what I think about it. And but soon this is going to be on the market, and it's most likely going to be one that I recommend because of the company. Number one, I've seen the engineering reports. It's UL 2252 certified. So hey, it's been thoroughly tested, and it comes from an extremely competent, big, large company that they don't put out junk. There's too much to lose.
Is it manufactured in China?
So I don't know where it's manufactured.
It's a big deal now.
We talked about this. We did. It doesn't say it on there because this isn't actually a production version. It's the casing is different. But we talked about this, and I think that they are. I'm not sure. I don't want to say something. I could be thinking.
Right.
In my mind, I thought we were saying that they were thinking about moving production somewhere else, but I could be thinking about another company. I talked to a lot of companies. So
they are already a supplier to Tesla, so they already make something. They either make the handles on superchargers or they make the cables for superchargers. Amphenol supply Tesla with something in terms of the superchargers. It might be the actual handles themselves, the connectors. I wouldn't be surprised because Amphenol lists Tesla as one of their clients on their website. I wouldn't be surprised if the actual Tesla adapter was made by Amphenol. Now, a lot of Tesla charging stuff then goes through Buffalo and their facility there to be assembled, but Amphenol make a lot of stuff already for Tesla and the superchargers. Not all of them. I think they're a key supplier. So it's good stuff, like Tom says. Like this is, they might be putting their own name above the door for the first time, but this all happens in the background. I wouldn't worry about the quality of that at all.
And this is this is, I think, the first product that the company is going direct to consumer with, because they supply the industry. They don't, and this is the first time that they're going to be actually selling something directly to the end user. So it's a whole new thing for them. I've been talking to them for months about this, because they reached out to me early on just to say, hey, would you be interested in looking at this and talking to us about this? Because this is kind of new to us. We know how to make things like this. This is what we do. Connectors, adapters. This is our core competency. But our core competency isn't selling things. Companies know who we are. They come to us and say, we want you to make a connector or a sensor or something like that. And now we need to kind of let people know who we are. So it's one of the reasons why they reached out to me. They know I have a voice in this industry and can talk about their stuff.
Yeah, more than a passing interest, I think it's fair to say. Hey, that looks good. We better go. Thank you so much for joining us, as always, on the podcast. Leave a comment if you're watching the YouTube video, the version of the show. You can join us live and join in with the comments. As always, it's really interesting to see what you're saying live, and we love the comments afterwards as well. Keep it friendly, keep it respectful. And we'd love to know what's on your mind over the next 7 days. Join us for midweek shows as well. You always keep an eye on the channel because you never know what might be popping up and cropping up on the channel. And if you've enjoyed this one, make sure you give us a thumbs up, because it's a thumbs up. I mean, subscription's always good, but it's a thumbs up which really helps YouTube tell other people who watch EV stuff that they might also like this podcast. Thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you again very soon. Hey, Dom, you know what to do.
Ciao. Jeez.